Melissa Tumblin, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here all the way from Colorado. So it's actually good morning to you and it's afternoon here. If we can jump straight in, and if you could start please by introducing yourself and telling us all a bit about your family.
Yes, great. Thank you so much for having me on this morning, Sasha. Yes, so my name is Melissa Tumblin, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Ear Community Organization. And yes, we are here in Colorado, and it's my youngest daughter, Allie, that has microtia and aural atresia.
And so when did you first learn that Ali had microtia? I know that obviously with microtia, you have it from birth, but talk to us about what that experience was like for you.
Right. So from a parent's experience, we had Allie. I actually had Allie when I was 35 years old. And so I had quad screenings. I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. Quad screenings are, like a 3D, 4D type x-ray of the baby. And they also rely on blood typing and, just making sure that everything is okay with your blood work. And everything came back fine. They never looked for an ear. We didn't know to look for an ear. And so when she was born, we were definitely surprised. I remember my husband coming over to me in the delivery room, and he was teary-eyed. And, she just was missing part of her ear. I had a C-section, so I hadn't seen her yet. And I was just, I didn't understand. I said, well, is her ear cropped? And of course I had been medicated, for the delivery. So I was a little out of it. And then they brought her over to me, and I just remember seeing her beautiful, sweet smile, Sasha.
Oh,
She was perfect. But we definitely asked, sorry if I get emotional.
Melissa.
When we asked our surgeons in the delivery room, do you know why her ear's gone? They just didn't say anything. There was silence. And so, of course, that made us become concerned.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
as a mom, I didn't understand why her ear was gone. And immediately you start blaming yourself as a parent, thinking, oh my goodness, did I eat something or drink something that I didn't know of because I was good during my pregnancy? And so basically it was my husband that had gone home that night. And he went online, researched missing ear, and microtia came up. And that is the first time we had learned of it. It was confirmed the next morning with our pediatrician that she had microtia, but there was no mention of atresia. At
And
least not yet.
can you explain, we're speaking about Atresia, and we talk a lot on this podcast about microtia, but can you explain the aspect as well of Atresia so everyone understands?
Yes. So when a child is born with microtia and atresia, the microtia part is missing ear, the physical part. And then the atresia, that's just it's a canal issue. So in our case, aural means hearing. So aural atresia, there was no ear canal. So Allie has no hole like the rest of us do, or like she has in her other ear. So
And
that part of this whole diagnosis hadn't even been mentioned to us yet.
so your beautiful baby girl is born, and with this gorgeous smile, and the doctors explained to you that she has microtia and Atresia after obviously your husband went home and he Googled that. And then what, did you go back to the hospital and ask questions, or did they say at the hospital that Ali was diagnosed with microtia? Did they know what it was at that time?
Yeah, so before we left the hospital, we were definitely diagnosed with her having microtia.
Okay.
So that was within 3 days after I had given birth to her. But it wasn't until 2.5 months later that we were finally able to get into the children's hospital here, because it's just a long wait with appointments. That is when we met with another ENT. Actually, it was our first time meeting with an ENT. And he confirmed she has atresia. And Sasha, I thought he was saying it wrong. It was confusing. We had only been told she had microtia, which we had never heard of. And now suddenly they're mentioning atresia. And it wasn't very clear. Our information came together for us in bits and pieces. And I think that's how it is with a lot of families. Just you're kind of startled and surprised by everything, and you can't seem to get everything up front as the answers.
Yeah,
So
a
there
lot
was
of
confusion for months for us.
A lot of parents that I've spoken to, there's that confusion. They sort of look inward. They might blame themselves. Did I do something? Did I not do something? Melissa,
Yeah.
can you talk to me about what information was given to you? So I know you mentioned that after 2.5 months of
Right.
waiting, you went back to the hospital. And then what happened there? Did they give you a lot of information? Can you talk to us about that part?
Yeah, so when Allie was born and our pediatrician made the diagnosis that she had microtia, she also had to reach out to a colleague. She had never had a microtic atretic patient before, which is common. It's just
Yeah.
rare enough, to where a lot of the babies haven't passed through a lot of doctors' hands, so they don't always know. But we only knew she had microtia, and then it was later when we had that ENT appointment. That was the first time we really were given any information. We were not given any resources when Allie was born from the pediatrician. She really did not know that much about it. I had even asked another doctor, do you know what happened to her ear that was on call during my delivery? And there really just wasn't any information the first time around, which is scary because having a baby should be one of the most wonderful days of your life,
Yeah.
But the information came to us later, but honestly, a lot of it was Googling. We went online and I found a whole bunch of bits and pieces of information. I found doctors. And I started calling the doctors, Sasha.
And
So,
it's that typical go home, get onto Google, which hasn't really changed up until now, find yourself going down a rabbit hole. And,
yes.
you obviously, and I know that a lot of parents have to take their own initiative and reach out to doctors to get that information. How is
Yeah.
Ali now? So she has microtia on her left side or right side?
Right.
So she has
And
right-sided microtia. And does she have full hearing in her left side?
so she does have normal hearing in her left ear, but it is degrading. So
Okay.
everybody's hearing loss is different.
Yeah, so for
Um,
example, for me, I have it on my right side, but I only have 50% on my left side.
This is where my
Um,
daughter's headed as well. Same hearing loss.
how old is Ali now?
She will be 16 next month.
And so I would love it if you could talk to us about that journey with Ali. So if we
Yeah.
can start from school, how she is socially, how she got a lot of friends, what support has been made available to her, if any.
Yeah. So, yes, Allie will be 16. She'll be a sophomore in high school. And all these years, I've watched her grow into a beautiful young lady who advocates for herself very well. Of course, as her mother, I've always been worried about her. But, Allie has some other challenges in addition to microtia and atresia. But she really has not been, picked on or bullied. She doesn't have a lot of friends, but she's a strong little girl. I don't know. She makes me so proud every day, and I've learned so much from her, Sasha. Just what she, has as an individual missing one ear and hearing loss, and just seeing how she deals with it. I've never really had Allie be worried about her ear. We talk about it a lot. We've talked about it all these years, and she's always like worn her hair up. So
That's
she's one of those
amazing.
individuals. Yeah, she doesn't really cover her ear, mind her ear. So yeah, that's where we're at. She's doing all right, actually. Yeah.
So, Melissa, when Ali was growing up, how did you talk to her? What words did
Mhm.
you use in terms of her uniqueness and to
Mhm.
make her feel better, to encourage her? Is there any tips and advice you could give parents who have a
Yeah.
child with microtia? Who, what could you advise them?
Absolutely. So it's really hard when they're young, because you can't communicate very well. And then that worry is always there. You worry about your child being bullied and picked on, and what is their life going to be like? You hope that everything works out. But when Allie was finally about 3, 4 years old, we started noticing, she'd like pull on her earlobe,
Oh,
little things like that. And so about that time, as a parent, you start realizing, maybe we need to talk about this, or you kind of almost worry about when the day is going to come when your child's going to ask, about their
God.
ear.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then she never really asked. It was more that I wanted to have surgery for her. So we were actually ready to have surgery to reconstruct an ear for her and do canalplasty, which is, creating an ear canal and helping hearing loss be restored that way. And I don't know, she was so petite, Sasha. She never met the minimum for anesthesia for the surgeries. So during
Oh,
that time, it now is about, she's 5 years old. And I just watched her little personality develop. And I realized it wasn't Allie that was seeming to be worried about her ear. It was really more me.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so then I just, we just kind of went from year to year. We'd talk about it. Absolutely. Did she come to me and say, Mommy, why do I not have an ear? Or when can we get me an ear? And then we would talk about it. And then she'd say, I do like my ear. So we went like round and round and round
Yeah.
about this over the years. And that's why I always encourage parents, it's okay to talk about it. I always tell Allie, no one's ever symmetrical. We know people that have two different colored eyes. We know
Yeah.
friends that maybe someone has a slightly shorter leg than the other. And you just happen to be missing your ear, which I always think the missing ears, it looks like they're winking at you.
Oh,
Or like little bows. I don't know. I see the microtia differently. But Allie really never had any problems. It was actually one adult that had upset her. Out of all these years, nobody really ever said anything to Allie about her ear. So that was another part of our conversation is, are you okay? What happened? And talk about it. And she shared with me that an adult had whispered to another adult during a play group, what's wrong with that kid's ear? And it
what's wrong
comes
with
across,
her ear?
yeah, what's wrong with that kid's ear? It
Oh
comes across
God.
as being so rude. And to have it come across from an adult, all this time I was worried about the kids,
And it's
Sasha.
the adults.
So everyone's situation is different. But I remember Allie ran across the street from the neighbor's house, came home. She rang the doorbell. I opened it. She was just sobbing. Again, this is age 5, sobbing. And she went straight to the back of the house and sat on the deck. And that was the first time I ever watched her heartbreak. It was awful. And then moments later, a mom came running over saying, we tried to get her. Can you imagine? She probably didn't look
Terrible.
both ways crossing the street. I mean, all of this that was said that upset her really put her at risk for safety. She was so upset she ran across the street to come home. And that's when the mom shared with me that another mother had questioned her ear and she heard it. They were playing with their little American Girl dolls. It was
Oh,
just a play date and
yeah.
everything was fine until, that happened. But that has only been our only experience.
But
We've
still,
had other interesting experiences too that
yeah.
turned positive, but
It can take that one experience, so just one comment can actually really impact someone in terms of their feelings, their outlook, how they live their life. So I think people really need to really be careful with the adults as well about how they say things. And, she was only 5.
yeah.
Melissa,
So
talk to me about ear community.
after our experience with Allie, this was just 6 months after she was born, Sasha, that I started realizing that was a strange experience with our doctors that no one had any information. We seem to know so much about the ear and hearing loss. Like I couldn't believe as I found more information online that none of this was shared with us, about like ear reconstruction, but all of the options, not just one technique.
Actually, we can
Um,
just jump back there really quickly. So they
yeah,
gave you the options. What options did they give you for example, if you wanted
yeah,
to pursue the surgery? What were the
yeah.
options back then?
So back then, so Medpor did exist. Okay, but we were never told about Medpor. We were only
Okay.
told about rib graft.
Mhm.
And this was during that first ENT appointment at Children's Hospital that we had waited 2.5 months to get into. And so we were told, you can't really do anything for her right now. Just maybe do a follow-up in about a year when she's a year
Okay.
old. And the ENT that we had met with, he was very kind. He was wonderful. He exceeded his appointment time with us. I mean, everything was great. But he did share about rib graft. And that's when we were like, oh, okay, this was all new to us. So we were very excited that there was an option there. But Turns out that surgical technique was the only technique that they did at the children's hospital. He actually shared with us that there is another option, but they don't do it here in Colorado at the time. And then here's the odd thing, like this is how confusing the information was. While we appreciated being told about reconstructive options, and they did good that way,
Yeah.
we said, surely she must have some hearing loss because her ear's missing and there's no ear canal. Does she need a hearing device? And so we clearly asked about a hearing device, but we were told she's not a candidate for a cochlear implant. They never mentioned a bone anchored
How?
hearing device,
Oh
the
my
actual
goodness.
hearing device she needed. So we went home, we were told what she has is fairly rare. So we went home when she was born thinking that we were the only family in the state of Colorado that had a baby born with her missing ear. So it was a little overwhelming. I didn't have the baby blues or depression, but I had a different feeling when we came home from having Allie. I was really worried about her. I protected her. I didn't know how to talk to people just yet about her ear being gone. And even when we were in the hospital, a photographer comes around when the babies are born and they try to help you out by saying, if you want your pictures now, you'll be so happy that you did it now, to have a picture, because when you get home, you're going to be really busy. The photographer took a picture of Allie, but when he propped her, her little ear was upright. And I just kind of rotated her to the other side for the other ear. And I share this with parents. I wasn't ashamed of Allie. I was protecting her. And then about 6 to 9 months later, I felt more comfortable opening up, like even on Facebook. I would take pictures of Allie and you'd see her ear.
Yeah.
It takes some time. So like as a parent, I went through all these different feelings as well, trying to understand this and what my feelings were that I was going through. So there was all that going on. But Allie and I absolutely talk about this. Still till this day, I always do a check-in with her and say, so how are we feeling? Because we meet kids all the time, no surgery, and we always just compare notes. And I just always want her to know when she's ready to have surgery someday, we'd be there for her 100%. And we've done our
So,
research. We know which doctors we would go to.
so I know that you said that she at 5 or 6 mentioned having the surgery, then went back and forth a little bit, and then she hasn't had the surgery. Has that stayed that way, or is she still contemplating
Right.
having the surgery?
So to clarify, it wasn't Allie that wanted the surgery by 5 or 6. It was me as a parent. I wanted to help my child the best way that I thought I could. We were the ones that were, and like I said, we never got far enough to actually do the scheduling and that, but we were ready. I was ready. She was the right weight. And, I felt if I had done this as early as possible, I could protect her. The sooner the better. But it's just, as we go from day to day, I just always check in with her and just always keep it an open conversation. We actually just had one of our first surgeries. We finally were ready for a surgery, Sasha.
She's just had one.
Yeah, it's not for the ear, though. We had the hearing device implanted.
Oh, wow. When did you have that recently?
We are so happy.
But when was that?
That was last November.
But hang on a second. So up until that point, Allie grew up until, so that was last November. She's 15. I had to count on my fingers then.
Yep.
And she had no help with her hearing, no assistance whatsoever until she was 15.
She always wore, we went through, we used like the Baha, we used the Ponto.
Okay.
And she wore that for 14 years. Most of it was faithfully. In our elementary school, she has a bunch of peers that are deaf and hard of hearing. And so it was a very close-knit group. So she wore that Ponto every day on the headband.
Okay.
Sasha, then COVID showed up.
Oh.
COVID got in the way of so many things. It was quieter in our house. We all had to be, home at school. And so she stopped wearing it. And then middle school came to an end, and she entered high school. And she actually shared with me last summer after our organization's events occurred that she was ready for surgery. And I said, oh, for your ear? She said, "No, I want to have my hearing aid implanted." And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh."
wow.
So she
Oh,
approached me. And I remind you, we have these events all the time. I often bring Allie, she comes, especially to our home picnic here in Colorado. So she sees kids all the time. She goes up to the reps, for the hearing devices and has conversations with them and everything. So this was her telling me that she was ready, finally, for something.
wow.
And so I was ready. But
So
yeah,
she
it
has,
all came together in bits and pieces, Sasha, and every family is different. Every
yeah, of
child
course.
is different.
So she now has the bone anchored hearing aid.
Yes, and it's the magnetically coupled one. So it's almost like the cochlear
You clip it
implant.
on. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
those. How
Yeah.
how is it? How's it been?
Oh, it's been wonderful. So like I was saying, when Allie entered high school, I think the headband started making her feel different.
Oh,
And over the years, she's always struggled trying to wear her hair like a certain way.
yeah, yeah, of course.
The headband limits it, it slides around. You have to wear a ponytail a lot. And so I think she just finally was kind of coming into her own,
Oh,
as a person, as an individual again, the teen years, and really just wanted something different. And so, yeah, we were one of the first ones to have the Sentio, is what it's called. There's the ossia, the bone bridge, and the Sentio. And she's just so happy. I mean, she hears new sounds that she didn't hear for the last 14 years on the Ponto. And the Ponto was great while we had it, and when we were using it. But this was the next level. And we were ready. And like I said, she kind of went into this all on her own. But it
that's
made me feel good
beautiful.
because she
Yeah,
asked me about it, and
yeah,
it
exactly.
surely she was ready. And so, like I said, that made me feel, well, I guess then we are ready. We're ready. So
So she's hearing new sounds for the first time.
Mhm.
Did she find that discombobulating? She's gone from 14 years of knowing what she knows to all of a sudden bone anchored hearing aid, new
Right.
sounds. How was that experience?
So again, I think it's different for everyone based on their hearing loss, the way their brain's processing their hearing loss, and then what they've been listening through. So Allie was already aided. She was already hearing through a hearing device, even if it wasn't every day. She already
Hmm.
had that exposure,
Yeah,
to listening through a hearing device. And then with this one, sure, the new sounds are overwhelming. I'll share a couple of examples of new sounds that she heard. So when we were immediately, fitted for the fitting and the programming of the device, we were driving home from the audiologist, and we were in the car, and she's like, "What's that airy noise?" And it sounds like bumps. And I said, "Oh, she was hearing the road noise going
what do
down
you
the
mean?
highway, like driving on the road."
Oh, when you go over the bump.
Yeah, like, the cracks in the asphalt and
Yeah.
just bumps and stuff. She was hearing that. And then we had another experience. We went to our grocery store down the street, and the ceilings are really high, and they have a lot of like, heating and ventilation and AC equipment. And so there was this loud squeaking sound. It was probably the air condition in the
Yeah.
store. Well, Allie heard it, and she pulled her hearing device off and said, that is really loud. What is that? She was like,
Bless her.
what is that? And I explained to her, I said, "Oh, sweetie, I think you're hearing like a whole bunch of sounds, but that one squeaking, that is the AC in the store." And to her, she must have never heard something like that before.
Yeah.
Plus, that the main purpose of a hearing device is to amplify sound.
Yeah,
So it
of
was
course.
really loud, and it was in her head,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
her
yeah.
ear. Yeah. So when we had our audiology appointment, we shared this information with the audiologist. And I tell parents this all the time too. Allie even picked up different sounds at school, like in different classrooms. There might be a fan in the background, or like the heating unit in one classroom, but the rest were fine. You just have to have the conversation with your audiologist. And so we did. We shared this information. He tweaked her device, and it's been wonderful. For the individuals or the families that don't realize, just because you might be struggling at first with the hearing device, it does take some time to get used to. And again, Allie had already experienced hearing through a device. So for those individuals who try a hearing device for the first time, oh yeah, it could be quite overwhelming. but all they have to do is just have a conversation, with the audiologist, and they'll fix it. They just reprogram it and say you need to have it fixed just a little bit more the next time. You can. Like, don't
Yeah.
just tolerate it.
Yeah.
Don't think like, oh, is this how I'm going to hear for the rest of my life? No, it doesn't have to be that way. Go in and share the information and see if they can improve it, which most cases they can.
Technology's advanced so much these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible for, people with microtia, but, anyone with a hearing
Absolutely.
loss. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah.
Melissa, I would love you to tell us more about Ear Community.
Yeah. Sorry, we got sidetracked. It's been such a long story, so many years. So yes, when Allie was born, and this was all new to us, when she was about 6 months old, I started a support group on Facebook. It was one of the first support groups out there. It's called the Microtia and Atresia support group. Plain and simple. It is
Plain
what it
and
is.
simple. Yep.
And within a year, the group became global. We had 1,000 people in it. And again, remember, we're fairly rare, right? It's a
One
rare
in
cause.
10,000 in the US, guys.
Yes. And oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it was the same question, Sasha.
I know.
Parents from the UK, South Africa, Mexico, it didn't matter where they were from, but they're like, why did this happen? Did I do something during my pregnancy? What is a Medpor ear? Is that a fake ear? Will it fall off? I mean, there were lots of questions.
Oh,
What's a Baha? Completely spelled wrong, for the hearing device.
yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And I'll let you know, I happened to have resigned from my marketing career. So I was already at home. And so when Allie came along, this, I guess, opportunity or my calling
You're
kind of
calling.
surfaced. It just kind of developed. And so when I realized that the support group was needed,
Yeah.
I started hosting picnics on my own. And I'd go around to the grocery store and look for volunteer gift cards or, the grocery stores to donate food or, anything. Otherwise, we were going to just do a potluck or something,
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of how it started. Was I had picnics, and this was the first year. We had one picnic, and over 100 people showed up in Denver. And
Wow.
Dr. Benia flew in from Texas. And it was so amazing. That was
It's
the kind of
amazing.
the start of it all, Sasha. And since then, we've never looked back. But, the organization is founded after Allie, of course. And the reason why we founded it is I wanted to share the information with all these other families. I realized there wasn't really a helpful resource. When I said I found information, it was truly in bits and pieces on
Yeah.
different websites. And quite oftentimes, not everything was in one place, and some techniques knocked the other techniques. And it was just like, oh my goodness. And so I just wanted it to be all out there, just everything. Just, I didn't want a parent to have a what if experience. Like, what if we were told about this? What if we only knew about this? I wanted them to just know about everything. And so that's when I built the website. And about a year later, I had a picnic where some of the hearing device companies said, hey, how can we help? And when they were
Oh,
there, they just kind of said, have you ever considered starting a nonprofit? And I was like, no. And I was kind of encouraged. They saw the need, and I saw the need. And that is kind of how Ear Community was born. I turned it into a nonprofit from the support group. And we turned 15 years old this year, Sasha, 15 years already
it's
of serving our
amazing.
community. Yeah, and it's been very rewarding and wonderful. And we've helped individuals all over the world. Yeah, so I just know I wanted moms to talk to moms, and I wanted the kids to have a friend just like them. And I wanted everyone to have a day of education where everyone's in the same situation and there's no staring and there's no bullying. And so that's how our events are. We have these wonderful picnics. And the organization has grown much further past that. If you're ready for the question on what all your community has done, I'm happy to share.
I would love to know what Ear Community has done.
Yeah, so one of the things that was most important, of course, besides the picnics, was promoting awareness, because a lot of people are like, Microtia, what is that? nobody can say them right, Sasha?
Yeah.
Microtia, Atresia, it's
Yeah.
never pronounced right. And so we established National Microtia and Atresia Awareness Day. I wanted our
Wow.
community to have our own awareness day. You know, there's autism, there's cancer, there's all these different awareness days. And so we established our awareness day, which is November 9th. It's every November 9th. And I say, think of 9 as the shape of an ear.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah. So November 9th is our awareness day. It's meant to educate. Doctors post on social media, you know, the 4 grades of Microtia. They educate about it. Some of them have clinics and events. Parents, they bring cookies and cupcakes, even in the shapes of ears, into the
Oh,
classrooms for the kids. And they have like a day of just kind of explaining about them and answering any questions. And we kind of relate it to some people wear glasses. So this is a hearing aid, you know, and I just so happen to be born without an ear. And it just kind of, it helps put it out there and neutralizes it. And the main part of the day is that hopefully if someone is in the public and they see a child or an adult with missing ears, that maybe they'll learn a little bit about it.
yeah.
And maybe they'll just say hi instead of asking questions or staring. But most importantly, it's a day of awareness to help make it easier on the next family that has a baby born with microtia and atresia. I just don't want anyone to ever be alone again. I just want them to know they have an entire community, you know, behind them, and their child's beautiful and perfect in every way. So in addition to our awareness day, we've gone on to do genetics research. I had the opportunity to be a co-investigator on a research grant with MIT, Vanderbilt, and Harvard here. And we had 800 microtia families sign up through my support groups. And even though most of the research was done on Colombians and Ecuadorians, it definitely shows new findings. It's chromosome 3, and it's due to different variants. So,
So hang on, you say chromosome 3 and there's different variants.
yeah, so there's a variant, like it's specifically FOXI3
How
is
do you
what
say
it's
that?
called. FOXI3.
Fox I3. Okay.
Yes. And all this information's on Ear Community's website. And we actually have a presentation from our primary investigator explaining, and he gives the very example where you have 2 unaffected parents who yield an affected child, which is the majority of most of our families. Usually when a child is born with microtia and atresia, nobody else on both sides of the family seems to have had this before,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not even congenital hearing loss. And so I always felt there must be some kind of genetic component to this. You know, it seems
Yeah.
so odd because in Ecuador, you've got families that have this in their families. You have aunts and uncles, siblings, grandparents, uncles. It's crazy. And then a lot of times the larger populations, of course, you'll see it more often. It's more prevalent in like Asian and Latino and Hispanic populations. And I was given this other opportunity on the side while doing the research with Vanderbilt. The chair of the ENT department there recruited me and said, will you help us launch the Microtia and Atresia Clinic
Oh, that's
here at
amazing.
Vanderbilt? Yes. And so I was able to help launch the clinic. And it was the first all options clinic from ear molding, Microtia, Atresia care, you know, Medpor, rib graft, all the brands of hearing devices, like everything, including the do nothing option. You don't
The do
always
nothing
have
option.
to
Where
change
is
your
this
sleep.
clinic?
Yeah, the Microtia and Atresia Clinic at Vanderbilt. And so it was wonderful. And then Dr. Evie, who was my boss, he said, what else would you like to do? And that's when I said, I'd like to find out why this happens. I don't want another mother to ever blame herself. That is how I had the opportunity to do the genetics research. Because Sasha, I'm just a mom. You know, I was trying to put the information out there, but I was given these unique opportunities where I was able to have some leverage and be able to go forward with that. You know, we don't have funding. I don't have an MD as my degree, but I found other ways in that helped us find helpful information for the community.
So that no one has to go through what you went through,
Yeah, and
ultimately.
so many other families. It still happens today. It's gotten better, but there are families. I get calls often from the hospitals. It's the dads. the dads are crying and they're like, we found your website. My son was just born, missing his ears. They're not sharing a lot of information with my wife and I, and it just makes me so sad. Because I remember that feeling.
Yeah, when I listen to you, sometimes I have the same thing. I get a lot of people that contact me. I use Google Translate, and the questions are always the same. What did you do? How was your surgery? What made you decide to have surgery? The hearing, and even some of the groups that I'm on, a lot of mothers are on these groups feeling lost, feeling with no information, and they need someone to talk to. So it's amazing that Ear Community fills that space and beyond, because it's not just a place where you can get information and you can make friends and not feel alone. It's giving you bigger answers to questions that still haven't been answered, which is the genetic side of things. I can't wait to read that.
Yeah, it's on the website. We've published 3 papers. And like I said, there's the video, but you're absolutely right. There was a need for this.
Yeah.
And sadly, it wasn't there. It wasn't there all these years. And so finally we were able to do something to put it out there. I use Google Translate too. I have all the flags up so people can find the website and they can feel comfortable reading in their own language. Again, I don't want anyone left out. But, in addition, the organization has grown. We award college scholarships. We've awarded over 30. We have donated nearly 200 bone-anchored hearing devices, Sasha, to those in need and who've been denied by their insurance. Here in America, insurance is an issue for these hearing devices. And that leads me to one of the last things that the organization has done along our mission is Allie's Act.
Allie's Act.
Allie's Act. So in addition to the ear community in general, we have a piece of federal legislation that hopefully would change the law here in our nation to have private insurers cover these bone-anchored hearing devices. Now, I don't know how much you've talked about the bone-anchored hearing devices on your podcast, but these are truly the only hearing devices our community can benefit from.
Yeah, exactly.
We can't wear a hearing aid. We have no ears to put anything on. Also, it's not the right type of hearing loss. They're not powerful enough. And then again, like when our doctor told us she wasn't a candidate for a cochlear implant, that too is not the right hearing device for our community. Yeah. So here, insurance companies, they do know what these devices are and they do cover them, but they also turn people away and they deny them. And we're all
Why
paying.
do they deny them?
Well, so insurance here is a big mess, Sasha. It's kind of hit and miss. So you could have 10 families in the same state on the same provider, and maybe 2 of them will be covered in full, amazingly. These devices are very expensive. They're like $15,000. And then if you want surgery, that can go up to $50,000.
50.
50. And so with Allie's Act, we need to make the insurance coverage consistent. Because of the 2 that are covered in full, the rest are covered partially or flat out denied. And they've met their deductibles. They've paid into the premium. They have a medical diagnosis from the ENT. And so the insurance companies, sadly, have gained the authority to override medical professional opinion, which is not okay.
No,
if we have a child, yes, or you as an adult, right? And say hearing does change as we get older. It changes over the years. You might maybe be adjusting quite well or doing all right. And then there's other children, they're clearly having speech delays. Like I said, everyone's different with the hearing loss. But for an insurance provider to deny a child under the age of 5, during the critical years of development, the opportunity to hear when speech and language skills are coming in is awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It is. And then as you grow up, hearing loss doesn't go away. We need help throughout adulthood. And so also here in the United States, insurance stops at age 18 or maybe 21. Well, what about to 64, 65? I mean, we still are working. We still have lives. We need to provide for ourselves. And so If your employer doesn't have that insurance, or say your insurance company just flat out is saying, no, we don't cover hearing aids, when hearing is so important in everyday life, it's unacceptable,
And it's
Sasha.
actually as well, like you just said then, that it's critical when the child is young, because the brain filters out the white noise. You can
Yes.
make those adjustments. You can live your life. It's so important. So has Ali's Act, has it all gone through?
No. So to pass a federal law can take 8 to 15 years. Sasha, what did I sign up for? Anyways, the bill is 6 years old. So
Sigh over the
yes,
podcast.
yes. So I have more work cut out for me fighting for the community. And we hope someday that this bill will pass and become law. And the bill was just reintroduced again. So we have sessions for Congress and Senate here in the US, and they're 2 years in length. So every 2 years, a new session begins. If the bill hasn't passed and gone through House and Senate within those 2 years, you have to start again. Yes, it's hard. It is very difficult and challenging to pass legislation, but it's a no-brainer bill.
It's such a
And
no-brainer. Come on, guys.
we know how much it's going to cost. It would literally cost insurance companies 1 penny per person per month. That's 12 cents per year to cover everything under Ali's Act. And the best thing is, it doesn't cost our government money. It's the private insurers. The private insurance companies, they just, if they're going to cover some people, they should cover them all.
Of
And
course.
again, they'll say, you asked me before, like, what do the insurance companies say? Well, they'll say, oh, you've got one good ear, that's good enough. Sasha, I
That's not
think
good
you
enough.
and I both know that's not true.
No.
You can hear, but you may not hear everything, or you may not hear someone sneaking up behind you, or that
No,
car,
exactly.
like the direction of it coming down the street. It's a safety risk.
It is a
And
safety.
also, there's studies that show aiding early, prevents, it helps with preventing early onset dementia. There's so many reasons to aid hearing loss and live a healthier, happier life. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we're fighting for that too. And I do hope it passes. It would benefit about 250,000 children and adults here. And by the way, Ali's Act doesn't just cover bone anchored hearing devices, it covers cochlear implants too. So it covers the person who wakes up tomorrow and their hearing is suddenly gone for whatever reason, right? A viral infection, head trauma from an accident, sensory neural hearing loss. This bill would cover them too.
Well, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping with time that this bill gets passed, because I can't still even understand why insurance providers won't cover this. I have a question for you, Melissa.
Yeah.
And I would say throughout this whole journey with everything, what would you say has been the most difficult?
The most difficult, honestly, has been founding my organization and finding the support to
Yeah.
keep it going. Aside from the feelings of worry and concern as being a parent, that's always going to be difficult. But I have another daughter. I worry about her too.
Yeah.
So it really has all been incredibly amazing, very rewarding. And helping somebody for me is second nature, Sasha. That's not the hard part. I was happy to share everything. But when you become an organization, it's the time and the effort and everything that's put into it. I've sacrificed so many hours. I mean, I had moments where I was going to shove your community off onto the back burner and go back to work. It's all that. Like, when you embark on a journey or you start something, you either have to stick with it, or sadly, you have to let it go. It becomes a challenge. So honestly, the support in that manner has been the hardest.
Okay.
The community is wonderful. The community, they're grateful. I mean, we have a huge family now, with everybody. Ali will never feel alone. But that part of the darn business part of it. If it all could be just wonderful and easy and,
Yeah,
um,
never
you know,
easy.
people have lives,
Yeah,
that's why I'm so proud that we made it to 15 years. It's crazy,
incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. So that has been the hardest, honestly. I don't beat myself up anymore as a mom. I did because I didn't know why it happened. I now feel better about it. I know I didn't do anything on purpose to hurt Allie. I did everything right. It was super healthy. I didn't even have, any issues during my pregnancies. So yeah, that's the hardest part. What also breaks my heart the most is watching other individuals who are struggling in our community,
Yeah,
Sasha, is there's depression. Kids, how it was being a teenager.
yeah,
There's
of
lots of
course.
hormones going through. You're trying to fit in.
Yeah.
That part I think is also the hardest. I've also had some parents that are near suicidal. The parents are blaming themselves so much, thinking
Oh,
that they really did this. So there's this whole other side of Microtia and Atresia
yeah.
on a different aspect that I didn't know I would be exposed to.
And
I'm not a psychologist. I have these conversations with parents just trying to assure them, look, you are not alone. You have all of us. If you ever need to talk, you've got someone. Because oftentimes, as you know, they're not going to find the right doctor
yeah,
to,
and
to help with them.
honestly, Melissa, us Microtia people, we've turned out fine. Sometimes, the
Yes,
mother
yes,
mothers worry, and that's
yes,
quite natural, isn't it? But I
yeah,
would say from everyone that I've met who has Microtia and beyond, it's all okay. And that I would like to ask you, Melissa,
yeah.
if a parent, has just learned that their child has Microtia, what advice would you give to them?
Well, first of all, I tell them it's going to be okay, and I tell them a little bit about Allie. I tell them about our events. I tell them go take a look at the website. You'll see so many others, just like your sweet baby boy or your sweet little girl. But I also share about people like you, Sasha. I've had you on my website, shining on our page of like, it is going to be okay. I mean, when Allie was a baby, this is how I found you. And I was like, oh my God, there's a model with Microtia and Atresia. I couldn't believe it. And so the website, I built it in 2011. You've been living on my website since
Yeah,
2011. And it's people like you that I point people toward. I say, okay, look. And then Haley that you had interviewed,
yeah,
I share about individuals. I try to put them in touch with someone. There's not always going to be someone nearby,
yeah.
but thank goodness for the internet. It
Thank
can be
goodness.
good sometimes.
Exactly. It can.
It's not
Yeah.
always scary and bad, but to have Zooms or podcasts like this,
Yeah.
it helps so much for individuals going through this to see, what, it's going to be okay. In fact, when she was a baby, I was already looking for preschools for her. And I got to observe in a preschool one day. And while he was in there, this sweet little girl walks through the classroom door, bilateral microtia and atresia. And she
Wow.
has her Baha on like a homemade
Rocking the
headband.
Baha. Yeah.
And her name was Illy. And she came right up to me and she signed to
Oh,
me,
wow.
"Hi, my name's Illy and today's my birthday." Sasha,
Oh,
that for me, holding my little Allie, looking for a preschool for her, meant the world to me because I got to see a child older than her. I was
yeah.
able to fast forward years from now, knowing my child's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it helps so much to like have people like you out there, and for new moms to see someone grown up and this is who you are. This is where you're at in life, and it's okay. And to also hear your story, like why you wanted to have ear reconstruction, and the choices that you've made and why. And this is the whole point of the picnics too, to put people in
Yeah.
touch with each other and say, just where are you at today? What kind of career do you have? And how is it going?
Well,
Just
I
to,
actually, I have, it's funny because recording a solo episode on my own is very different to recording with, say, you guys. I have attempted twice So I'm actually off on holiday on Wednesday. And when I get back, I'm doing a solo episode on all of those topics because I think it is helpful, sharing
Yeah.
stories about Microtia and the challenges, the accomplishments, all of those things really do help others, on their Microtia journey. And so I think, Melissa, what you've done and the incredible work that you've done, and it's not just work, is it? It's a labor of love. It's something
It is.
it's something that you're not only passionate about, but you want to make a difference because it's something that you didn't have. And
Right.
it isn't just it's not, you founded a community and did some picnics. You're doing so much in terms of changing the law, and you're an advocate for Microtia, and I find you really inspirational, an inspirational woman in so many levels, because not only are you're, what's the word I'm looking for? You're vulnerable in that you're showing your vulnerability on this podcast today by sharing your story, but anyone listening to this podcast, especially parents of children with Microtia, will be put at ease instantly by your calming words and your wisdom. You've been doing this for 15 years. You're the OG of the Microtia community. And
Thank
I'm so grateful to have you on this podcast because, like you say, we are all a family, and
Yes.
people with Microtia, we're the same as everyone else. It's the other people sometimes that make us feel a certain way. But actually, there's nothing that children or adults with Microtia can't do versus anyone else with or without Microtia.
Absolutely. We
We're all
never
the same.
let little or missing ears or hearing loss define us, because
Exactly.
we can all go on and do amazing things. And it also helps to have a great circle of friends too.
It
But,
does.
not everyone
Yeah.
has the same situation. But
You don't have to have a lot of friends, but, to have a
yeah,
few friends, I think that really does help as well. Melissa,
absolutely.
if the viewers and the listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So they can reach me directly through the website. There's a contact us. It's my email. It'll go directly to my email to make it easy for them.
What's your email?
EAR community at gmail.com. And then, earcommunity.org. And again, translatable in over 47 different languages, Sasha. I wanted to make sure no one was ever left out. And, this is how families do reach out, just to hear someone else in the same situation. Doctors are amazing and wonderful, but if they can't put us in touch with each other, right, because of
Exactly.
medical legal issues and standards, then there's organizations like Ear Community that can. And you can hear it right from another mother or father's
Yeah.
voice and
And
have the kids see someone just like them.
Ear Community is on Instagram as well, isn't it?
Yes, Instagram and Facebook. I've got 5 different pages on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll link all of those details below in the show notes. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can
Okay.
contact you through your email or go onto those social media pages, Facebook, Instagram. And I also think as well, people really need to pay attention to this because there's no reason in 2025 to feel alone. If you're a
Right.
parent of a child with Microtia, or anyone for that matter, these resources that you, Melissa, have put in place yourself
Yeah.
will help. So, help you to navigate that Microtia journey by giving you the information that you need. You can speak to others, and you don't have to feel isolated or lonely. And everyone's door is always open. For example, on my podcast, everyone that's come on as a guest has said that their door is wide open. Melissa, your door is wide
Absolutely.
open. My door is
Mine
wide
too.
open.
Yep.
And Melissa, I'm so grateful that you didn't, go back into full-time work, and that you really persevered with this and pursued this, because if it wasn't for you, people probably would be in that situation where they did
Yeah.
feel alone, or they do feel alone, exactly how you did feel. So I'm so grateful to you from the bottom of my
Aw.
heart for everything that you do, and for just being an advocate for Microtia. I think you're wonderful, and I'm really grateful to have you on today, and I'm really inspired by your story, and I can't wait to read about Ali's act as well, and I really hope that doesn't take 15 years to go through.
Oh, I know. Well, and thank you for you as well, Sasha. You are beautiful inside and out. And it means so much for others to see someone like you and feel comfortable, that it's okay. and you're beautiful. And, it's that love and acceptance that goes a long way. Being
Love and
confident in
acceptance.
yourself.
I agree.
Yeah,
And, beauty comes from within, doesn't it? So
it does.
sometimes I feel we live in a world now where there's this pressure to look and be a certain way, but we forget that actually with microtia or without microtia, we are all beautiful. It comes from within.
Yeah.
And I hope this is a small reminder of that, because just if you have microtia, it doesn't mean that you can't be something, or that you're not beautiful, because you are. You absolutely are. So Melissa, thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. And I can't wait to tell everyone I was interviewed by Sasha Gardner today. I feel like I've known you for so long, and this is so amazing. And thank you for coming out to the public and sharing your journey.